Hey guys, what's going on? Pat Pit Boss, Guru Pat, whatever you want to call me. Just not late for dinner. Pintados Stickboxing system. And today, or this video at least, I've done a few today. This video today, I'm going to be covering a question I had regarding the Florette pattern. Now, the Florette pattern is it's like flower based, right? So we're coming pop, 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 pop down our angles. Now, this stuff, I've heard it called stick twirling and all of that jazz. It's very flowery. It's very flowery. It's pretty. It's nice to show people that you do stick fighting. Look at how many times I could spin this. I'm like a baton twirler. Now there is a reason for this stuff. Like for example, if you check out our first the stick boxing for the solar practitioner video, when we're doing our power swinging, we do some spinning as a momentum changer, right? After I do a power swing, this moment gives me a second to come into that secondary swing. But that's not necessarily why we do Florette. Florette is a pattern. When are you going to do this in a stick fight? When are you going to do this in a knife fight? When are you going to do this sword fighting, right? Not that we're getting in sword fighting, but we're facing some interesting times. That's because Florette, at least in my humble opinion, isn't made necessarily for solid weapons. It's made for flexible weapons, and that's what this video is going to be about. Okay, so the basic of Florette is as you're swinging, you're doing a few spins all the way down. Now, if you're going to practice with a stick, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a form and there's a reason we do that. But something I see a lot of people doing is this thing. Is that ever ridiculous? Hey, you're looking for a disarm. You're looking for an accidental disarm to happen if you're spinning your stick. So something that I do, or at least I used to teach my class, is the gun hand. Now, the Paquita Turcia does a lot of nice stuff like this. I like it because it's getting you to use the dexterity of your hand. You should be able to practice your Florette flow with just the bottom 3 fingers, or even the middle 2, to loosen up the wrist. If you can't do it with 2, you're cheating. Who does stick fighting? Well, like they're Tommy Lee on the drum set spinning his sticks around. That's ridiculous. So if we're here, pop, 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 right? That flow stuff comes into play. So now I'm going to talk about some flexible weapons. Now the tabak-toyok is what lots of people would consider like the nunchucks back in the day. This is a padded pair. I do have a live pair, but so that Florette stuff comes into play when we're doing the basic angles of our 8-point template, but with a flexible tool. Pop, 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 pop. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that stuff comes into play there. Well, I guess so that stuff it comes into play with the flexible a lot more than it does with the static weapons, right? The stick, the knife, the stuff like that. All right, guys, so here's an example of some of the stuff you can use as a flexible tool, a flexible weapon. Living in the time we are, you know, a lot of our options are increasingly becoming limited on what we are able to use and what we aren't able to use in a self-defense scenario. Also, what we are allowed to carry on us in our vehicle, whatever the case may be. So like I was demonstrating the tabak-toyok here, these are practice ones. I'm actually a martial arts educator, so even though that these are prohibited in Canada, I should be able to get a little bit of leeway, at least the live ones. This is just a makeshift one. Right here's an example of a great little tool that my friend Dax Williams from Hive Combatives made. Now, to keep in mind, it's a bandana weight. That's what these are sold as. You put this weight, it's a, let's see, it's a leather, and Hive Combatives. You check out Dax's stuff. He's my brother in the art, brother from another mother. So this is just a weight to hold your bandana in place. The fact that it's sewn leather and it's got shot in it has nothing to do with the amount of weight that it can hold. So it's kind of like, these aren't technically the traditional flexible tools that you're going to be using to trap and to lock or to choke. These are weighted flexible tools. or part flexible, part rigid would be another example. Now, to use something like this, now I put a knot in it because when we're swinging it around, you don't want it to accidentally go flying off or losing one of the handles. So to hold something like this, I would put one pinky in there and then fist it up after that. This is not going to be easily disarmable. You can do all your swinging stuff, your template practice with this small weighted implement. Okay, now, obviously, an affordable or poor man's weighted sap or weighted, bandana weight could be a lock. Now, this is one of my, my gun locks attached just to a small dog leash. Simple enough. I can have a lock in my car and a dog leash in my car. Nobody's going to question what that's doing in there. But in the worst case scenario, this becomes a flexible tool that isn't going to be disarmed if my wrist is through there. Now, you can do the same template swingy stuff, but you're going to want to make sure that you find a leash that is pretty stable, well riveted, going to hold together. Same thing with the clasp. A lot of times, like if you're using this kind of thing, you could put this on the end of a lanyard or any padlock on the end of your key lanyard, and you should be able to use it in the same manner. Although you're going to want something very stable, because as soon as you make impact, all that impact's going to get transferred to whatever is holding your tool together, and it might fall apart. Again, you got a couple carabiners attached to a ring and another lock. Now this is quite overt tool for self-defense tools. So carrying something like this is going to be very obvious what the purpose is, at least if it's put together. Now, if you take it all apart, that might be a different story. You just have a ring and a carabiner, all these random tools that are in your car or truck that in a moment in need, you might be able to put together. And now I just have a length of chain, a couple carabiners, a ring, and a lock. But in a pinch, this quickly becomes an improvised tool for self-defense or defense of those that can't defend themselves. Bang, 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 pop, there you go. And you've got your distance, This is a custom mala or prayer rosary. Now, this one was a gift to me by a client who knew I taught martial arts and that I did some impact and flexible weapon stuff. These are all stainless steel beads, and actually the cord in the center is a steel cord. This has been, if you can see, I'm not sure where that is. This is bolted with a hex bolt in place. You should be able to hang your body weight off of this. The demonstrations in these that they're shown, you can hang body weight off of them. You can do trapping with it. You can do choking. You can also do impact with this. So these stainless steel malas are very much a covert tool that you can wear around your neck. And who's to tell you that it's a weapon just because it happens to be heavy and durable for weight bearing. Another option, if you're wanting the flexible, the part flexible, part rigid tool, would be putting a lanyard on a shorter stick. A lot of the old police in the 30s and earlier would have the flexible lanyards on their stick, and then you can get to all of your flexi tools stuff here, right? This one is pretty light, but these are also really good. I'll do a short video one of these days for like locking with this stuff, choking, takedowns, cross checks. Holding it like this, less likely to be disarmed, but also if you were to do this, you now have a part flexible and part rigid tool that you could practice the template with. So once again, I'm just going to reiterate, when we practice the spinning, the fancy spinning, the Florette, all of the carry through off of our power strokes, a lot of those come into play when we're swinging a tool that's going to bounce back if we don't follow through. You can't do a broken strike with this. You have to do a fluid strike from chamber to follow through to a different chamber. You can't hit and come back. That being said, there's also the Filipino whip or latigo, which is a little bit more of a snapping weapon. I'd love to do a latigo video, do the template with snapping and swinging. But that being said, these tools are very important to realize that you need the follow through. You need to do from chamber A to chamber B. If you make impact with something like this, it's gonna bounce back on you. It's gonna smack you in the head or hand or anything else, and you might do more damage to yourself than you would be doing to your attacker. So keep that in mind when you're playing with this stuff and you're working the template, that you might end up getting smacked. And I just want you guys to practice with what's around your house. You can also put something like a pool ball or a lock or a sack of change into the bottom of a sock. That's as easy as it gets. A lot of this stuff, keep in mind, it comes from a culture that has been disarmed. These guys, we call them nunchucks or whatever, they were rice flails for separating rice from the husks. You hit the rice, the husk comes off, and they were farming implements that had to be reestablished or reutilized as self-defense tools against robbers, against corrupt officials, against anybody who might be trying to infringe on their freedom. So these are very much tools that anybody can use and improvise, which is an essential part of Kali. I don't think enough people are paying attention to the improvised applications of what we're using. All right, let's go back to some of the applications. Now it's very interesting, like this transition, that's Sinwali. That's our mid-chamber for Sinwali. And keep that in mind. There is trapping, there's choking you could do with this stuff. But if we're going Florette down, Florette down, Florette up, Florette up, Florette side, Florette side, Florette down, Florette up. So that's our basic 8-point template using a flexible, well, it's a flexible weapon with a stiff end. Next level would be doing double hand stuff. Now again, I'm getting a little cavalier with these because these guys are padded, but there is options for your Sinwali drills. Now I'm not going to go into the functionality of what's it called, flexible tools. That's a whole other class, but I'm just trying to show you that that Florette dual, or that Florette flow, comes into play more with flexible tools than the static tools. Plus, these are padded. I could hit myself in the head. It's not going to kill me, right? The static ones are illegal in most jurisdictions. But I just wanted to show you that we can do it with the static as much as, I'm not going to smash coconuts or anything. But we could do it with the static as much as the padded. Okay, so just before we head out, I'm going to re-examine that 8-point template using a flexible weighted implement, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Florette comes into play when you're doing this stuff. Now, keep in mind, as you hit something with a flexible tool, with a stiff weighted end, it's going to bounce back. So this stuff, play with it at your own risk. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to give a shout out. I'm wearing a justice sweater that was given to me by a buddy, and this sweater represents justice for the missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada. Anybody involved in martial arts or tactical training should remember that part of our job is defending those that can't defend themselves. It's not just about yourself. It's not just about being the toughest guy on the block. Take care of those without a voice. Thanks for coming out.